Imagine hitting that exact financial milestone you've been agonizing over for, I don't know, 5 years.
Oh, yeah. The one that's supposed to fix everything.
Right. The money finally hits your bank account, or the promotion is announced, maybe the ink dries in the new house. You feel this massive surge of triumph.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like barely 48 hours later, you're sitting there scrolling through Zillow or LinkedIn, feeling just as restless and inadequate as you did last week.
Yeah, it's a strangely universal experience.
It really is. It's like our biology seemingly punishes us for succeeding by immediately moving the goalposts.
It is a profound psychological friction, honestly. We are so conditioned to treat happiness as this transactional destination.
Like a vending machine.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
if we input enough effort or status or wealth, we will extract permanent peace. But the fulfillment evaporates almost instantly.
Leaving us totally
Well,
exhausted.
running a race with literally no finish line, and that relentless exhaustion is the core reason we are examining today's material.
So we are focusing this deep dive on a spiritual discourse called Parinbam.
Which translates to Supreme Bliss.
Right, taught by Guru SivaYogi. And our mission here is to dissect the profound difference between that temporary, fleeting dopamine hit we just described and a state of, well, unshakable inner clarity.
And we are looking at how to unlock an extraordinary potential that, according to the text, is already functioning inside of you right now.
Which is wild to think about. And perhaps the most compelling aspect of this philosophy for you listening right now is that you do not need to abandon your life, your family, or your career to access it.
Yeah, which completely reframes the entire concept of enlightenment for a modern audience.
Oh, absolutely.
We are aiming for a calm, reflective exploration of human consciousness here, entirely stripped of religious dogma or, impenetrable mysticism.
We want to keep it grounded in clear English.
Exactly. This is just about observing the mechanics of our own minds. But to ground this, the source material requires us to categorize what we actually mean when we use the word happiness.
Right, breaking it down into 3 distinct tiers. Let's start with the baseline tier.
Okay, let's do it.
The first tier is called Citronbam, which is essentially defined as temporary pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
This is the happiness that relies entirely on external objects or, satisfying immediate needs. And the text does not pull its punches regarding Citronbam.
It really doesn't.
It states that this level of pleasure invariably leads to pain, debt, disease, or sorrow.
Mm.
Which sounds harsh, but I guess it makes sense.
Well, because it is fundamentally an attachment built on quicksand.
Right.
The brain's neurobiology ensures that we habituate to new pleasures incredibly fast. So when you tie your emotional baseline to an external input, whether that is a luxury purchase, social validation, or a purely physical indulgence, you're basically inheriting a vulnerability.
It's a huge liability.
Yeah, the source describes this as a heavy price tag. The moment the external input is removed or normalized, the resulting deficit registers in the mind as suffering.
It makes me think of the hedonic treadmill.
Oh, perfect analogy.
Yeah. Like, we just keep turning up the speed just to feel the same baseline level of satisfaction, like a credit card shopping spree or a sugar rush.
Mm.
But okay, if Citronbam is flawed because it relies on objects, the text introduces the second tier,
Right, in them.
which we can call ordinary happiness. Now, this seems a lot healthier, right? It is characterized by mutual well-being, the genuine feeling of wanting to be well and wishing well for others.
Yeah, it is a beautifully balanced state of being, and honestly, it forms the foundation of a healthy society.
Right.
However, even InBAM has a structural vulnerability.
Wait, really? What's wrong with wishing people well?
Nothing is wrong with it, but if your internal peace is entirely dependent on the mutual well-being of your community or your loved ones, what happens when tragedy strikes them?
Oh, well, yeah.
Your happiness is still conditional. It is still subject to the changing, often brutal tides of life. You are tethered to variables you simply cannot control.
So to reach an unshakable state, you have to move beyond even conditional goodwill.
Exactly. And that transition leads to the third level, Parinbam, or Supreme Bliss.
Supreme bliss. Okay, so how does the text define that?
Parinbam is the highest state of deep understanding and radical inner clarity. It is a psychological vantage point where the ultimate reality of life is no longer obscured by personal biases or fears.
Okay.
But what's fascinating here is that achieving supreme bliss does not demand the rejection of the first 2 levels.
Meaning you can still enjoy things.
Exactly. The text specifically illustrates this with a really quiet, grounding detail. It notes that a person residing in Parambam can still experience profound joy from something as simple as a child feeling them a morsel of food from their hand.
That is beautiful. So they are still participating in the beauty of the world, but they aren't, like, held hostage by it.
Precisely.
I do struggle with the practical application of this, though, because we have this culturally ingrained archetype that to reach that level of non-attachment, you have to become an ascetic.
Right, the guy in the cave.
Yeah. You have to sell all your belongings, go entirely off the grid, and meditate in isolation. So how does the Source reconcile supreme bliss with living in a modern, hyper-connected society?
By entirely dismantling the myth of physical renunciation.
Yeah.
The text is remarkably blunt about this. It points out that simply sitting in a forest and practicing breathing exercises does not automatically generate bliss.
It doesn't.
No, physical isolation is often just another form of escapism. The illusion of external fulfillment works in multiple directions.
Oh, I see. We see that all the time, actually. Society tends to equate visible deprivation with spiritual wealth. Like someone gives away their money or adopts a rigidly minimalist aesthetic, and we automatically assume they are enlightened.
Even if their internal monologue is still raging with ego.
Right, even if they're super arrogant about their minimalism.
Yeah, it just becomes a performance. On one hand, you have individuals chasing corporate status and luxury, driven by societal programming. And on the other hand, you have individuals adopting a mask of extreme sacrifice to signal their so-called spiritual superiority to others.
Both are still external traps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both individuals are still trapped in a maze of external validation. According to the text, true renunciation has literally nothing to do with emptying your bank account. It is exclusively about releasing the psychological attachment to the concept of mine.
Okay, I have to pause there because, practically speaking, our entire society is architected around ownership.
Oh, totally.
I have a mortgage, I have a retirement account, I have legal obligations to my family.
Right.
How does a philosophy that says, release the concept of mine, expect us to function in a capitalist framework without just, descending into chaos?
That is the crucial fiction point, and the distinction lies between legal stewardship and psychological identification.
Okay, unpack that.
You can pay your mortgage, maintain your investments, and provide for your family while recognizing that you are merely managing these resources for a temporary period.
Oh, I see.
Suffering occurs when you believe your house or your net worth is you. When you fuse your identity to those assets, a market crash doesn't just damage your portfolio. It damages your stance of self.
That makes so much sense.
The text actually cites the ancient Tamil sage Thiruvalluvar to anchor this point. He did not abandon society. He was a weaver who lived deeply engaged in family life, yet he wrote some of the most profound philosophical couplets in human history.
So he embraced all dimensions of life, including love and family. He found the absolute within the mundane.
Exactly. He achieved supreme bliss while operating a loom and raising a family. It is about deep understanding, not denial.
He manages life without identifying as the things he managed.
Right.
Okay, so if the goal isn't to shed our physical responsibilities, we have to talk about the mental baggage we are actually supposed to shed.
Yes.
The text focuses heavily on the concept of abhimanam. What is the mechanism behind that?
Abhimanam translates to an artificial image or a constructed identity.
Like an ego.
Right. From a very young age, we begin building an avatar. We piece together ideas of how we should behave, what success looks like, and how others perceive us.
Yeah, we build a brand.
Exactly. And eventually we start to believe we are that avatar. The tragedy is that once you construct this false image, you spend the rest of your life burning immense psychological energy trying to defend it from criticism.
Wow. It's like running a massive corrupted background app on your smartphone that drains the battery in 2 hours.
I love that analogy.
You aren't even actively using the app, but the processing power required just to keep it running in the background leaves you completely depleted.
Yeah.
The effort of maintaining the successful professional avatar or the perfect parent avatar is just this invisible cognitive tax.
That processing tax is the root of human suffering.
Yeah.
And what the text illuminates is that the suffering is not imposed on us by the universe or given to us by God. It is entirely self-manufactured. We generate our own misery through expectations and the desperate impulse to compare ourselves to others.
Which is exhausting.
It really is. A powerful example used in the source is the modern phenomenon of throwing a lavish, financially crippling wedding.
Oh, yeah. People go into massive debt for one day.
Right. Often, the core motivation isn't actually a celebration of love. It is a transaction to purchase social approval and maintain the abhimanam.
We mortgage our futures to ensure the avatar looks good in the photos.
Exactly.
But the text also notes that a person who has reached the Supreme Bliss state of Paranbam never feels insulted. Which makes sense. If you've uninstalled that background app, if you've dropped the avatar, an insult literally has nowhere to land.
There is no surface area for the criticism to attach to. They operate with total transparency, they are honest, open, and they don't put on an act.
That sounds incredibly freeing.
Furthermore, the philosophy warns that trying to mimic the path of others is a guaranteed source of misery.
Even good people.
Even attempting to copy revered historical figures like Gandhi or Nehru will only generate suffering, because it is just the adoption of a different, slightly more prestigious avatar. Every life requires its own authentic expression.
Which makes this an incredibly egalitarian philosophy, really. It explicitly states that the fundamental human value of a highly revered saint and a local fisherman is exactly identical. The capacity for inner clarity doesn't care about your resume or your societal rank.
Because Supreme Bliss is a condition of awareness, not an accumulation of merits.
Okay, so to dismantle that avatar and stop the endless cycle of comparison, we have to figure out who is actually operating the system, right? We have to look inward. But the text highlights a paradox about how we distribute our attention today.
It is a striking paradox. We currently possess an unprecedented mastery over the external world. We can manipulate genetics, we understand the physics of black holes, we can instantaneously transmit data across the globe.
We know everything about the outside.
Yet we live in profound, almost aggressive ignorance of our own internal mechanisms. The gateway to Supreme Bliss only opens when we pivot that massive analytical power inward and sincerely ask two fundamental questions.
What are they?
Who am I and why was I born?
Okay, let's break down the actual cognitive mechanism of asking, who am I?
Sure.
Because I think a lot of people hear that and imagine sitting cross-legged for hours,
Yeah.
essentially just navel-gazing.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm in the middle of a stressful workday or I am standing in a chaotic grocery store line feeling incredibly irritated, how does asking, who am I, actually change anything?
It acts as an immediate cognitive pattern interrupt.
Okay, how so?
When you are irritated in that grocery store line, your brain defaults to a narrative. I am frustrated, my time is being wasted, I deserve to move faster. You are completely fused with the emotion.
Right, you just are the anger.
Exactly. Asking, who am I, in that exact moment, forces your awareness to step back. It engages a different part of the brain, creating a crucial space between the stimulus, the slow line, and your reaction.
Oh, I see.
You realize that the self, who is annoyed, is just a temporary cluster of thoughts and physiological responses, not your fundamental identity.
So you are observing the irritation rather than becoming the irritation.
Yeah.
It shifts you from the actor on the stage to the audience member watching the play.
And that shift prevents paralysis. Because self-inquiry is not about ignoring your responsibilities or just freezing in place.
Which is a relief.
Think of physical hunger. When your stomach growls, you do not sit down and philosophize about the nature of hunger.
You go find a sandwich.
You seek true nourishment. Spiritual inquiry functions the same way. It shifts your baseline awareness so that when you do act, when you manage your team, when you pay your mortgage, when you raise your children, you do so from a place of genuine clarity and necessity.
Rather than acting out of a desperate subconscious need to validate your avatar.
Exactly.
And crucially, the text emphasizes that this is entirely a solo mission. You cannot outsource the cognitive heavy lifting.
No, you can.
You can't get the answer to who am I from your parents, your spouse, or even a spiritual guru.
The source is remarkably protective of individual autonomy. It explicitly warns against dynamics where a guru tries to dictate your life choices or trap you in rigid rules.
That's a huge red flag in spirituality.
Totally. A legitimate teacher merely points out the obstacles you have placed in your own path. They help you clear the debris so you can live freely and discover your own answers. They do not hand you a pre-written script.
That's really profound. Okay, let's apply this directly to the architecture of our modern lives.
Let's do it.
Because it is incredibly loud out there.
Yeah.
We're constantly bombarded by notifications, emails, and demands for our attention. How does a state of Paranbam survive contact with a smartphone?
Well, the text is highly cognizant of how easily we become enslaved by miniature tyrants.
Miniature tyrants, that's a great phrase.
And the ringing cell phone is the ultimate modern example. A piece of plastic and glass emits a sound, and it instantly hijacks our nervous system.
It really does. It induces anxiety,
Right.
it demands an immediate reaction, and it basically dictates our emotional weather for the next hour.
It is almost a tragic irony, honestly.
Oh, for sure. We engineered these sophisticated tools to serve us, to buy back our time, and give us ultimate freedom, and we ended up paying for them with our attention. We voluntarily put ourselves on an electronic leash.
We traded agency for convenience. But applying Supreme Bliss to this scenario doesn't require destroying the technology. You don't have to throw your phone into the ocean.
Thank goodness.
It means executing the necessary action without carrying the residual mental burden.
Okay, what does that look like?
If the phone rings and it requires your attention, you answer it efficiently. Do what needs to be done immediately. But you do not allow the anxiety of that interaction to bleed into the rest of your afternoon. It is the practice of accepting success without letting it bloat into arrogance, and facing failure without letting it curdle into despair.
Here's where it gets really interesting. True freedom isn't throwing the phone away. It's just not letting the ringtone dictate your inner peace. It's like discovering your smartphone has been running in battery saver mode for years. The processing power, the clarity, the peace, it's already built into the hardware. You don't have to download a new app or buy a new device to find it. You just have to consciously toggle off the restrictions you placed on yourself.
That is the ultimate synthesis of Guru Sivayogi's message.
Yeah.
Supreme Bliss is simply unblocking what is already there. It is not a geographical destination. It is not an achievement to be unlocked. It is your natural state, your default setting.
It's just currently hidden.
Right. Buried beneath a mountain of inherited fears, false beliefs, and the exhausting habit of comparison. When you stop feeding the abhimanam, the avatar, the confusion dissolves.
And life naturally becomes a celebration. This brings us directly to the ultimate realization of the teachings, that you already possess everything you were searching for.
You really do.
Well, we've covered an immense amount of ground today.
Yeah.
To synthesize this journey, Parambam, or Supreme Bliss, is not an escape hatch from reality.
Yeah.
It is not found by abandoning your family for the forest or forcing yourself into strict joyless dogma. It is the quiet, rigorous process of dropping the artificial mask of ego. It is shedding the cognitive tax of comparison and living your everyday life, your career, your relationships, your obligations with deep, unshakable awareness. So before we close, consider this.
Sure.
If your true self isn't your job title, your social standing, or your reputation, well, what happens to the concept of ambition? Can you strive to build a legacy or create something magnificent if you have entirely let go of the need to be remembered for it? Think about how that subtle shift might completely alter your next 5-year plan.
That's a fascinating question to leave them with. And to leave you with a final thought, here is a powerful reflection inspired by today's text.
Please.
Supreme bliss is not something to be found outside of yourself. It is the natural state that emerges when confusion, fear, comparison, and false identities fall away. The journey is not about becoming someone else. It is about discovering who you truly are.
Thank you so much for trusting us with your time today and joining us on this deep dive. Take a moment today to stop looking outward for validation and ask yourself those quiet, powerful questions. We wish you genuine peace and clarity on your own journey of self-discovery. Take care of yourselves.